Going live. And we're live. We're using Big Blue Button, and that is another open source chat alternative. It's slightly different than Jitsi, which is what we usually use. So you'll notice if you don't have your video camera, you don't appear, but up here at the top, I'm talking, so my name is there, and folks can't see the sidebar that has the actual users. But we wanted to test it out, make sure it's all working, and we could live stream from it because our party conference is coming up next weekend, and we wanted to make sure we got all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted.
Yeah, and I like the way it does initials on the little logos for users. Instead of just the first letter, it's the first two letters. So tonight we have st, ya, yo, and ma talking to you tonight. Really, what we're trying to do is encourage everyone to come to our conference, which is when, Jamie?
Our conference will start at noon on Saturday the 14th, and then we will end for that day at around 4:30, and then begin again on Sunday at noon, again until 4:30 on the 15th, Sunday the 15th. So it'll be live streamed from YouTube, but if you go to masspirates.org/blog/conference, there's the sign up link, and you can sign up, and we will send anyone who is signed up a link to this chat tool we're using so people can participate.
If you've got an issue that you're really passionate about, and you want to see the Pirates make some motion on that with you, then please come talk to us. We're very easy to influence.
Unless they're fascists, screw them.
I'm really happy with the results of question number 1. This is a Massachusetts ballot question that would have updated our state's right to repair laws. It passed by a 3-to-1 margin, and every community in the state or in the Commonwealth voted in favor of it. I'm kind of bummed that question 2 came up 10 points short. That would have been ranked choice voting for state elections, but we can try again, right?
I really want to know what happened in Milford. Milford had 92.7% vote yes. That's 8,500 people who knew to vote yes on this issue. And I want to know what they're doing in that city, and can we replicate that across the state?
Yes.
Well, the easy thing is to look at the recent contested Democratic primary, where the candidate who won got around 22% of the vote. And we know that once you get the Democratic nomination, say for Congress, odds are you're going to win the general. And then once you've won the general, you're pretty much in there for as long as you want. It's really, it's very unlikely, unfortunately, given things, that someone's going to challenge or successfully challenge an incumbent congressperson in Massachusetts. And so, what we had there was 22% of the voters decided who the candidate was, and thus decided who the ultimate winner would be through, I don't know, eternity? Not that quite, but certainly through the next, 4 to 5 or more elections. I mean, how long has Neil been in, for Christ's sake? That guy never goes away, even though he's horrid.
I do have one. For me, there's a nice silver lining from question 2, because Arlington has a special town meeting coming up later this month, and one of the articles that we will be voting on is whether to adopt ranked choice voting for municipal elections. And considering that Arlington voted in favor of question 2 by about 2-to-1 margin, I'm optimistic. But in one of the presentations about the article that a fellow from the Election Modernization Committee gave, he used an example from Fall River to show where plurality voting gives you a weird result. So the mayor of Fall River, Jose, I don't remember the guy's name, but anyway, people wanted him out, so there was a recall election. And he was recalled. Something like 66% of the people the voters in Falmouth wanted him out, and something like 33% wanted, or a third wanted him in. So, although he was on the recall petition, you also had a mayoral race taking place on the same ballot, and he ran and he won. So it's like 66% wanted him out, but those 66% of people, their votes all split up along, the 4 other candidates, and the mayor who was just ousted was reelected with something like 34% of the vote. Yeah.
Well, yeah, normally if you look at municipal elections, like, Somerville, we have a preliminary election where if there's more than 2 candidates, that gets it down to the top 2 candidates, and then the general election acts kind of like a runoff, and that they didn't have that, right? I'm sure normally when they have an election in 2021, they'll probably do the preliminary and then the general, but they didn't have that because there was only one option on the ballot. Whereas if they had ranked choice voting, then they could have gone and ranked the candidates and the incumbent, even though, obviously 66% didn't want them.
Although, Somerville's sort of a special case, because that tends, in Somerville, and at least on a couple of years, it's been a Democratic incumbent running against a pirate. We should do that again, 2022, man.
Yeah. Well,
I've been trying to recruit folks to run for office. Like, I have been actively talking to my friends.
Congress.
I want to make a brief appeal to folks who might be put off by the thought that this is like a specifically progressive issue, and like, to some extent it's being spearheaded by a lot of progressive organizations, but it's not by definition progressive. It's not going to advantage the left any more than it's going to advantage the right. It's anti-partisan is what it is. It's designed to take power away from the party establishment and open the slate, or open up the slate of people who can run and succeed at running for office.
So in Massachusetts,
the Republican Party in Utah uses it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's a pretty Republican state.
Well,
So
I
they're
mean,
using it, if they like it.
if you think about the voter party enrollment in Massachusetts versus party of representation, Massachusetts has a predominantly Democratic legislature, although we do elect Republicans for some things like governors. But the majority of voters in Massachusetts are unenrolled. So they've declared no party affiliation. And, the representation just does not look like that. And frankly, we would like to see more independents, who aren't necessarily running as, one of the two major or three major parties, trying to get their foot in the door for municipal elections and state offices. School committee, planning board, select boards, board of assessors, housing authority board. All of this stuff is important. It has real effects on, where you live, and it's definitely worth considering if you had any thoughts of entertaining running for office.
The boards of commit, like, you can get a seat on a board board and commission in most cities without having to run for office. Like, I know Worcester has a huge slate of open seats waiting for butts. So, like, if you have any questions about how you can get involved in any level at your local politics, like, please reach out to us. One of us will walk you through what options you've got and, like, what kind of a commitment each one might be. Like, if you've got 18 kids and you're working 13 jobs, you don't necessarily want, like, a full-time legislative position, but you might have 2 hours a month to sit on a board and commission for something you're passionate about to really help your town. And, like, as someone who's been involved in politics and political races, it is so much less robust than you might think. Like, there are fewer people that have less power, and basically, to whatever level you can commit yourself, people will give you that responsibility. Like, it's grim, folks.
I mean, there's also, Steve is an elected pirate. He's elected to town meeting in Arlington. And, there's something like somewhat over 30 towns in Massachusetts that have what are called representative rather than open town meeting. And obviously, if you live in a town with open town meeting, you should go to town meeting.
Just show up.
You'll get known, you'll meet people, you'll participate, you make decisions for your town. But there's also representative town meeting, and basically a third of the town meeting is elected every year, usually in the first half of the year. So, contact your town clerk and ask them, how do I run? It's usually what? I mean, Steve in Arlington, wasn't it 10 signatures?
It is 10 signatures to run for representative town meeting in Massachusetts.
So there you go. If you're in one of those towns, and we're working on the list, run. What have you got to lose?
Yeah, 10 signatures to bring a warrant article to your local town meeting. Again, this is specific to town forms of government in Massachusetts, but you want to change your town bylaws, 10 signatures, get it written up, get it approved by your town council, and get it. Should be, actually, yeah, we're in November now, so the time where towns open their legislative sessions, or they start, collecting articles for the warrant, that's usually in December. So yeah, you can do this.
I don't think this is done yet. I do not believe Trump is going to commit to a peaceful transition of power. I see the Republican administration, or the Republican machine, start to turn its back on him, and like try and scapegoat him for their past 5 years of utterly complicit sins. But like until Biden is in the White House, I don't think we should assume anything.
I mean, certainly he got 4 million more votes than Trump. There's no evidence of underhandedness with the election. All votes need to be counted. I mean, if the legislature decided that mail-in votes had to be counted after votes on the poll, you can't go back and say, well, those votes that were mail-in votes, we really shouldn't count them because they go against my candidate. I'm like, that's not how it works.
That's
Every
not
vote
how
has
it works.
to be counted.
One of the things what I was going to say is one of the funniest things I saw recently was I guess after was it the after one of our presidential elections a couple of years ago, you had a bunch of more Democratic, liberal, left-leaning people saying, "I'm going to go move to Canada." Well, guess who wants to move to Canada now? All the people who were unhappy about Trump losing. And I don't know. To me, Canada just seems like the wrong thing to do for those folks. I mean, they've got socialized medicine. Weed is legal. You can get an abortion. There was some guy on some video on Twitter where a Canadian, is basically saying, Americans, you should stay out. We don't want your COVID. We don't even want you coming here on your way to frickin' Alaska.
But it's legal.
Don't expect ideological consistency. No, it's like
That's kind of a universal constant.
Yeah.
So
See, I think Trump was crazy and senile. So no.
The best campaign. Oh, sorry, Malt. You go ahead.
I was like, he's got 3 Supreme Court seats. If he could have forced it to the Supreme Court, he would have won. It would have been a repeat of 2000. And I just like there has to be a middle step between lose the election, get it to the Supreme Court, and it didn't ever seem to materialize. And like that's why I think something is still going to happen. Like,
Well, I was going to say the Electoral College has not cast their votes yet. So this, regardless of what they're, we faithless electors, I think that's what they're called. It's always been kind of an up in the air issue because no one's ever really tried to, punt that ball and run with it. But, it's I guess it's the thought of it is still out there.
I don't think it's going to happen. I'm sure that the Democrats have selected the overwhelming, 99% of them are going to cast their electoral college vote for Biden. I mean, I don't see that happening. But I think to Malt's point, I mean, we're going to have to worry about Trump trying to tie this up in court, trying to challenge ballots. I mean, it looks like, I don't know, you've got Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, and potentially Georgia. I mean, that's 4 states. It's not like 2000 where it was just Florida and it's 537 votes. I mean, it's 4 states. Not only that, he's also talking about, challenging in Michigan and Wisconsin. And I'm kind of like, fuck. Correct. It's the state. The state decides. So the state sets the rules for, you know, when a mail-in ballot has to be received by. And usually, at least it has to be, like certainly in Massachusetts, it has to be postmarked by the day of the election. And then it has to arrive within a certain number of days after the election.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Massachusetts, I believe, does not certify results until something like 10 days after the election. Uh, Pennsylvania, I believe, waits 20 days. So, I mean, there are, there are a variety of ways that, states vary in what they allow and how they, have chosen to conduct their elections. And yeah, it just varies.
I think either way, we need to make voting accessibility a more central issue in progressive politics. Like it was mail-in voting that saved Biden. Um, we should push to make voting registration universal. We should push for mail-in ballots to be the default. We should push towards oh my God, the imprisoned folks, reenfranchising felons who have lost voting rights, and changing the way that a prison population is counted. Like right now, folks in prison count towards the population of the town of that holds the prison rather than where they're registered to vote. So that's another point in the prison industrial complex where it works in its own favor that we need to push back on. There, if we're talking about Georgia, though, we should mention that there's going to be a runoff election. There are going to be 2 seats up for grabs, and whoever wins that is going to be the one that takes control of the Senate. So if you've still got energy to donate, volunteer, text bank, plenty of opportunities for you to still do that.
So I'm just curious. So they had 2 seats open and and no candidate got a majority. So if a candidate got a majority, then they would have won. They would have gotten one of the seats. Is that correct? I mean, I assume so, right? I mean, it's otherwise why have the runoff?
Yeah, I had the impression it was, if the races are close enough, then it's the top 2 that run off. But I I could be mistaken on that.
But it would have to be the top 4 that I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of surprised. Like, one of the Democrats hasn't decided. Oh, we're just gonna like drop out. So at least one of us will get more votes. The Republicans will kind of split the Republican. But I don't know if it's like block voting and you get 2 votes, then
Yeah.
I suppose it doesn't really matter. But.
Both of their races went to runoff because neither they nor their challengers garnered at least 50% of the vote. So that honestly kind of strikes me as like an odd form of ranked choice voting itself.
Or,
Well, I mean, ranked choice voting is also called instant runoff voting, right? So
Ha!
well,
that's really what it was called.
well, that's what this is sort of interesting. Like just thinking through the numbers, because I like to think through numbers. If you have a lot of people turn out for a presidential race and they don't fill in the blank or they don't fill in the ballot for a Senate race, like just say they vote for president and that's it, then yeah, you can have you could have a 2-way race where neither candidate gets 50%.
Those would be considered abstained. I'm just wondering if there was third-party candidates or something.
Okay.
High would be my guess.
It is worth pointing out that on low turnout elections, like mid-year elections, like runoff elections, it tends to skew red. So this is not something we can sleep on. I'm gonna have flowers in my mustache. I
We'll
will.
put the sign up link in the description and all.
I will eat my head's weight in cochina live on camera.
It's going to be live streamed. And one more thing, we're not going to be here. There's no pirate news next week because we've got the party conference and we're live streaming, 11 hours. I think we're going to be all exhausted by that.
Yeah, we're going to be out.
But thanks all.
Bye.
I mean, to be fair, my head